picture stuff. You should never stop thinking about that, whatever else is going on in the business. Today I'm on my way to see a retailer. They do 7 figures in e-commerce, but they also do an equal amount in bricks and mortar. They have shops around the country and operate on a franchise operation. He also imports product, he wholesales product, he retails product. And from a small start, a small beginning, he actually started his business on the market. And I've met a few entrepreneurs like that over the years who had a stall and a good product and were enterprising, and they went multi-million pound turnover. What happens there is the growth is so fast, it's a bit hard to keep up. So his question to me was, it's gone amazingly well, but I'm not quite sure the direction next. You know, I've established a multi-million pound company, what to do next? And more importantly, really, on my accounts, it says I make a lot of money, but I don't feel like we have a lot of money in the business, and I don't know why. Okay, I've left the meeting with the business and spent 3 hours having a fairly eclectic, complicated discussion, primarily because there are 2 things happening in that company. One is it's growing rapidly and he sees potential for more growth, right? But because it's growing so fast, the infrastructure hasn't kept pace. And what I mean by that in real life is when I go in, he introduces me to a person who's another consultant, which I wasn't expecting. Says, I've got 2 of you on the case. It's okay, that's fine. I've worked with other consultants before. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But, you know, as soon as if you have different focus, right? If I have a complementary objective to another consultant, it works. Anyway, he's a specialist. He's run his own business and he troubleshoots, that's his words, companies financially. So he'll go and see them, look at their financial systems, the information gathering, and say, is that data robust? Is it accurate? Is it reliable? And is it timely? Or in other words, have you got the information you need to make an informed business decision or take an informed risk? Because that is the information I need. I need financial data in a timely, accurate fashion that I can have confidence in. And the business owner has none of those things. This is a successful company. When you look at their published accounts, annual accounts, it says they make net profit between 35-40% on 2 or 3 million pound turnover, forecasting double the sales again this year. This is a company a lot of people would like to have. But when you talk to the owner, A, he's obviously got some doubt about what he does next because he's not sure about the numbers. But secondly, what's the word? Well, no, he's got some doubt. That's all you need, isn't it, as an entrepreneur, to really, what's the word? Paralyze yourself in terms of enterprise. Don't trust the numbers. Feels like I haven't got any money. Looks like I'm running out of cash every month. That is paralysis as an entrepreneur. So that complementary role is clear, isn't it? Because whilst we do some of that work, rinsing, as he called it again, that's quite a detailed project. What would normally happen is I would go and work with somebody on strategy and ambition and would say, you cannot go forward with any confidence without management data, financial information, timely, accurate. You need to put in place a solution. Well, the other consultant is the solution. And why it doesn't come out of an organic strategy conversation is it's so starkly obvious. He's living and breathing that business owner, that he needs a grasp on the money. And that is going to take a month. That other person will work in there, making sure that all the data is reported systematically, that it's accurate, on time and together. At the moment, 4 or 5 different people are responsible for different sections of the data, so it doesn't come together in any coherent way. Yes, but that does not stop me doing my job. My job is to look at longer term, significant changes that need to be made to the business. The financial situation is what we call short-term critical. That is a no-brainer. That is a let's not even talk about it scenario. Put the solution in place, because we are about to talk in terms of business growth, and I'll explain a bit more about that in a minute. Investing money. Significant projects. Well, you're not in a position mentally to do that right now, from a confidence or a stress perspective. Imagine that. You're running a £2 million business, growing to 4 million in 1 year, with £500,000 worth of labour and overhead in terms of staff, unsure whether the cash is going to balance every month. You will not be sleeping very well. You will not be thinking very clearly, however good an entrepreneur or experienced you are. That is a problem. My argument today, which I believe in strongly, is whatever else is going on around you, you should not stop looking forward. The term bigger picture is very subjective and blurry, but whatever else is happening around you, you should not stop looking forward, because if I can see a light at the end of the tunnel, I'm more likely to be less stressed. Some things will always stress you out, you know. Having enough money to pay the bills is not something that we can have a subjective conversation about. However, putting yourself through a hard slog is a lot easier if you know why you're doing it. So I said to him, other chap, short-term critical, must happen, no-brainer. My job, because you asked me to come in here and talk about direction and other problems, is to establish exactly why you come to work. I said, what's your end game? Tell me what you want to do, what your ideal life in business is, when you leave or when you exit day-to-day input. So you don't have to leave, you don't have to sell your business, you don't have to, you can still get paid by putting a manager in place. Either way, your accounts are changing slightly, and that is our solid belief that your job as an entrepreneur is to create a set of accounts using strategies that get you enough money at the end to have a brilliant life. That's why we do it. If I don't know what those accounts look like, what am I doing? I'm growing a business for growing's sake. That's not direction. That is following momentum. So I said, tell me how much money you want for your ideal life. He said, well, what you mean, my life or the business? I said, your life. He said, well, I want to be able to look after my family, I want to pay off my house. I said, that's fine, just put a number on it. Doesn't have to be accurate, just give me a gut feel. When you sell the business, how much? He said, 6.4 million. I said, what you just did by giving me that number is you created, without being challenged, there's a lot of challenge to go on, you created a profit and loss sheet for me, because I know what your exit strategy is, or your exit amount to have a great life when you've finished and put yourself through all this. 6.4 million. I can value your company in a very amateurish way, but it's still valuable. So we know, general rule of accountancy, valuation of a company on net profit multiplier, so how much money does this company make? 2 to 7, that's what I've always heard for the past 20 years. E-business company, higher, they say. Right? 2 to 7 is the multiplier. So what that means, and this is what he has, he makes £500,000 net every year for 3 years, this is what he's done. I know immediately your company on a bad day is worth £1 million, because it only takes 2 years to get my money back if I buy it. Take it with a pinch of salt. I'm not stupid, but I don't think so. What the true valuation is what someone will give you on any given day based on what's going on around you in the industry and so on. I know that. There is no equation on valuing a company. It's subjective. But something that isn't is the profit multiplier, net profit multiplier, 2 to 7 times. Then I said, you got about £500,000 in your balance sheet here. So we'll add that on. Well, you discount it a bit, but we're up to £1.5 million. That's if you decide you've had enough today, which you shouldn't do. You might be just having a bad day. But, this company is worth a lot of money already, and lots of people would want it, competitors or investors. But then you've got this subjective unknown. Brand. No one knows what that's worth. The truth is, that is the element that is on any given day. The money speaks for itself. Profit multiplier. Even the asset value. You know, the balance sheet speaks for itself. That's how much money that's worth. Speak to an accountant. That's what it's worth. The brand is who the hell knows. That's the unknown. So that should, and obviously the financial chap I was with said, well, I'm not, you know, I'm not sure that's how it works, you know, how you value a company, or you get given whatever you get given, and he sold his company because he was approached. I said, yeah, I know that. But what we're doing is we're not creating a set of accounts to sell the business. We're creating an aspiration to have a choice. We're trying to create a set of accounts that has this much net profit in it and this existence day to day for the owner. So you have a choice. You don't have to sell. On that day, you might have created a brilliant business that you could sell, but you might sit there and go, actually, I'm loving this, I'm not going to bother. But you've got a choice. If you don't map out a creative process to create a set of accounts with a certain amount of value in, it's just luck. I need direction. The direction comes from what you want out of life. Once you say to me, those are the accounts I need, everything kicks in place and ticks down. I then know what marketing strategies I need. I know what people I need to make it happen. I know the time scales. If you say you want to do it in 5 years, then I know when I've got to do things. Big picture stuff. You should never stop thinking about that, whatever else is going on in the business. You might park it for a month, which is what this is. Park the bigger picture for a month. Secure the finances. Then we're going right back into growth because you want your perfect life.